Hi everybody, I am Frances. I am doing pro drones for the week 4 discussion. I am used to doing this in class, so the video is kind of weird, so bear with me. So to get started, there's the few different types of drones, the Predator and the Reaper and the Global Hawk. They have capabilities from surveillancing from 25,000 feet in the air to 60,000 depending on the type. The Reaper is the one that can be dual armed. So there's a bomb possibility and a missile possibility, as well as having surveillance with real-time imaging reporting back. So I'm assuming, maybe it's something with Osama bin Laden situation. If we ever come across that again, they have a better chance of making sure the targets are hitting where they're supposed to hit and not civilians. And I know that's one of the biggest debates with people, is that civilian lives are taken by the drones, as well as bombers, fighter pilots, like all that stuff. Unfortunately, that's happened in the history of wars, but I really feel like drones and what they're doing nowadays is really taking that element to a lower level. Any life is still not good, but it's much better to only have maybe 100 something people be unfortunately killed, but versus thousands because you dropped a bigger bomb and you didn't need to, kind of thing. I just think they're a very important piece of technology because of their capabilities, that they can fly closer to the target areas, that they're not orbiting. Satellites are amazing for a lot of their purposes as well. However, they're predictable, and that's a big problem with foreign policy, or with wartime imagery and things like that. They can change their camouflage, they can time so that they're not outside, or they can go underground, they can do all kinds of things, where drones can hover easier, they're less visible, and they can operate with infrared and some other things that actually help the imagery coming back to, I'm going to assume, basically the Pentagon or whatever military force is in charge of the operation and surveillance. And I am talking extreme situations. I'm not talking like the day-to-day drones where the Air Force does fly them to practice and train. However, like, that's one of my other points is that we have had a lot of success with drones, that now they're doing all kinds of other experimental things, making them stealthier and smaller, which would really be awesome, so that, one, they're undetected completely. Two, there's one's called Dragonfly, and it's obviously, by the name you could tell it's really tiny, and it's quiet. It's one of the more stealthier drones that they do have. It doesn't have a hummingbird sound like the rest of them. It's a really cool piece of equipment that they're testing with, along with others, and weaponry and things like that, because that is our military, that is their job. But it increases intel, and it's increasing training, and it just makes our guys better and better and better at their job if and when they do have to use it in real time. And it can improve tactical errors, it can improve operations, it's full motion video, they can see everything live, it transpons straight back, which is huge, compared to a pilot back in the day having to sit there and report things back, wait for a call, go through the other old policies. Now they can see it immediately. The pilot really doesn't have to think anything about it, and the best part, the pilot's not in the plane anymore. So for me, being a former military wife, loss of lives is a huge advantage. I'm for the drones, knowing that people like piloting. It's funny because they do have a different name for it, and I just can't remember. My apologies. They are still pilots, but it's something else. But they're sitting on a base somewhere, and they can be anywhere from 450 to 3,000 miles away from where their drone is operating for its mission that it was given at the time, and no one's going to be able to shoot a person down, which I think is a huge advantage. Again, less loss of lives in wartime practices. I just think it's more important that the better we have this amazing technology, we should optimize it. And then I think it would be helpful in other things, like maybe national security. We can use them, and I know that some of the operatives already do use drones for narcotics. They like to use them to try to see infrared. They'll use infrared and intel at night just to see if they can pick up people, if they're going across the border, or are they going under tunnels, stuff like that. But my point being is if we could do that, then why not use surveillance and things like that? That's helpful instead of building a wall and all that. Like, that's just so much money. And a drone is around 11 million. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's not compared to old surveillance techniques and old fighter jets. I think an F-35 is somewhere around like $94 million. So you could see the difference and why it's still advantageous. But another thing that's kind of like just like my own idea that I think would be neat is what if we could take the intel that we have from the military and use it in civilian life. For example, with I'm just using LAPD because it's a big entity for civilian militia, if you will. Or SWAT, and what if they could take these same tactics and instead of, obviously not missiles, but what if they were co-opted with like Taser or somebody like that, and then they could take out these shooters? You still have the ability to keep the people, I know it sounds awful, you don't want to save the shooter, but what if you did? What if you do want the intel that they could provide? What if they are part of something bigger? How cool would it be if they could just tase them instead? You don't have officers going in. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of great stuff, and I do understand that there are cons against this, and I will address a few of those with my response, because I do understand the other side of costs and power and some other things like that, so I will address those later. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.